It's another edition of Orange and Blue Today. Mock Draft Madness. Chad Reuter, NFL Network, joins us. Now, Chad, you have a 5-round mock that's coming out on Friday at NFL.com. But let's talk about your 4-rounder that had the Broncos taking Bo Nix at 12. Mason and I talked about it a couple of days ago. That sounds pretty nice to me.
Yeah, I mean they'll have that opportunity, I think, unless they make another move, and we'll discuss that. But if these teams think that the 5th best quarterback in this draft is worth the 11th or 12th pick, they might have that opportunity to do that. And we'll see if that's the case or not. I'm not sure that in a quote normal draft, in a usual draft, that he would get that high of a grade. Although I think I like him as much as, you can like a guy, the 5th best quarterback in a draft. I mean, I think he's got a lot of great things about him, but it wouldn't shock me if it wouldn't shock me either way if Minnesota or Denver takes him at 11 or 12, or if they wait a little bit and there's a scenario where that could happen. So it's an interesting play this year with the supply and demand of the quarterback position.
If they choose to wait a bit, how long do you think they could wait or perhaps trade down and still put themselves in position to end up with Bo Nix at the end of the day?
I think if they wanted Bo Nix, they would have to stay above where Minnesota is picking later in the first round, 23. So an option would be that I have talked about before is trading with the Eagles and getting that spot and staying ahead of the Vikings at 23. And they'll see what the Vikings do, obviously, before they do. That's one good thing about being, one spot behind them is the Vikings have to make their move, or they have to make a move to get ahead of the Vikings. So they're kind of in the driver's seat in that term.
Yeah, and we talk with Chad Reuter here, NFL.com, NFL Network's Chad Reuter. 5-round mock draft coming out on Friday. Here on Thursday night, we're talking about your 4-rounder with Bo Nix at 12. And a lot of evaluators saying supercomputer, a lot of evaluators saying great fit with Sean Payton. And if we were just to rank landing spots for rookie quarterbacks, something Mason and I brought up earlier this week on Orange and Blue Today, like the Sean Payton factor, it has to factor pretty high compared to where these other rookie quarterbacks could land.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true in terms of his knowledge. I mean, obviously there's a lot of other factors that are involved in it, or Russell Wilson would still be there. And I think I think Nix is a team player, so I think he will fit in that sense. And if you look at the guys at the top of the draft, it's working with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota isn't bad either, but I mean, certainly it would be a good situation for a young quarterback to find himself in.
Yeah, we were talking about this a bit yesterday. I mentioned O'Connell with Minnesota. We talked about Sean Payton, and probably with the right kind of quarterback, Cliff Kingsbury there in Washington, depending on who they end up with. But then compare that to a situation like the Patriots, where I'm not sure that looks as favorable for a young quarterback as maybe Washington, Minnesota, and Denver do.
Yeah, and it's funny. We talk about these quarterbacks needing to be in a good situation, and then we don't always know what a great situation it is until the quarterback actually gets there. For example, the Houston Texans, right? I mean, I think nobody really expected them to jump up like they did, and it turned out that DeMeco Ryans knows what he's doing, and he's got Stroud, and it all worked out pretty well. So I think Gerard Mayo should be a good coach there, and I think the way they have set up it could potentially work. So I don't want to say it's a bad situation. But again, as we've talked about, the situation is only as good as the coach, the defense, the receivers they have around them, the offensive line. I mean, there's so many factors involved that I think which a guy could excel past that and what we think is going to happen, and also fall short if it's not quite there.
Here's Chad Reuter, NFL Network, NFL.com, 5-round mock drops on Friday. But here on Thursday night, I'm going to rewind back to what Mason and I discussed on Wednesday's Orange and Blue Today, which is the New England Patriots sending out all sorts of different smoke signals, okay? And where it's I've heard now they like Drake May and they will take him at 3. But then at the pro day circuit, the talk was JJ McCarthy is the guy that Elliott Wolf really loves. Okay. And then I go back to January, and I think I told you in Dallas, Chad and Mace, like they like Jaden Daniels, and they'll move back for Michael Penix if Daniels isn't there. It's April, Chad. It's the month of lies. So how much of this stuff do you believe?
I believe as much as I can throw, or something like that. I'm mixing my metaphors. No, I go a lot more by what I see than what I hear. And that is the way that I tend to look at things, because you can hear 100 different things that are conflicting and all that stuff. For now, I think it's going to be Williams and Daniels and May, and then probably McCarthy at 4. That's my gut feeling as of today. So, and if anything changes in that, it's more fit and, thinking about what McCarthy can become as opposed to May. That's kind of where I'm at with those two. We'll have to see where it goes down to the line, because I think May has a lot of potential, as does McCarthy. But in the end, somebody may just say May has got a little bit more size. He's got, and that kind of thinking can get teams in trouble. On the other hand, a lot of people didn't like Josh Allen coming into the league either. He's not accurate. He's not blah, blah, blah. A lot of people pan that pick. So, I can see them going with May in the end.
We talk about fit a lot, and you just kind of mentioned the fit. So if you, Chad, were going to marry these top 5 quarterbacks, and even throw in Penix as well, to places that were the best fits for them among teams in the QB mix, like how would you pair these QBs?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to even bother with Caleb Williams going anywhere else but the Bears, because that's where he's going to go. Okay.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of Daniels with Kingsbury. I do like that. And May, it's so hard to tell what the Patriots' identity on offense is going to be. So I don't even know if we can really say who's the best fit there, to be honest. If you want a guy that is all about the intangibles and is, look, if they like Jaden Daniels a lot, then, maybe they take the guy that's a real dual threat. Drake May is more of a power runner that can get you yards when you have to, but JJ McCarthy's a legitimate run threat, and just not quite as good as Daniels, but he will take off and get 30 or 40 yards. And so if you like that aspect of his game, if you like his leadership, if you like things like that, and if the Patriots were really interested in Daniels, then it's not that much of a stretch to say that McCarthy can do a lot of those same things.
He's Chad Reuter, NFL Network, NFL.com. 5-round mock drops on Friday. But Chad, this is why I love you, brother. And maybe it goes back to our shared moment at Madison Square Garden years ago. But I want to ask, and you said that you would reveal it because your 4-round mock had Bo Nix to the Broncos at 12.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting a special preview. This is Thursday night. You're getting a special preview for Friday's 5-round mock, and it's not Bo Nix at 12. Who is it?
Well, I may have the Broncos moving up into the 4 spot. They don't have the ammo this year to move up, but we all saw what Sean Payton did with the Saints. They were not afraid to give up future picks, and Arizona at 4 is going to be very interested in future picks. So that's what I projected in the new one, is that they go up and they go get JJ McCarthy at number 4. I mean, it's going to be a 1st and a 3rd next year, and it's going to be one of the later picks this year. It's going to be an investment, but I think his skill set gives him a real shot at making it. And I think if they want one of those top 4 guys, that's the move that's going to have to happen. I don't think the top 3 teams are moving, and it's all going to be about Arizona and what Arizona wants to do. So that's what I went with in this go round.
That would be interesting because, we're always trying to figure out what's a smoke screen, what's actually real. But of course, last week at the league meetings, you had Sean Payton talking about it being realistic to move up in the draft and then saying it was good to be Monty Austin for it.
Yeah.
The Cardinals GM.
Yeah. Well, Austin Ford said so at the combine too. I mean, he's been begging for people, and you never know if it's just him begging for people to call him or if they're actually calling him. You never really know. But my guess is that the quarterbacks are interesting enough that he is getting calls, and I think it would be behoove him to take those calls and get some future picks like they did this year with when they moved up and down in the draft last year. They got some picks for this year. And they can still, my guess is what I've had them doing is moving from 4 down to 11 or 12, depending if they like Minnesota or Denver's package, and then moving back up with Atlanta, because Atlanta could use some mid-round picks too, and then going and get the receiver that Arizona needs. So I think that seems like a likely scenario that somebody is going to get that 4 pick from Arizona, and I'm sure that Denver will be not happy to give up the picks, but they know how important it is to get the guy that they want.
Yeah, it's legacy for Sean Payton. Chad Reuter, he's FOMO, friend of Mace and Cease. So FOMAC, something?
Fomac.
Friend of Mace. FOMAC. FOMAC. Yes.
FOMAC. Yeah,
FOMAC.
Chad Reuter. He's FOMAC.
Sure.
I got one more for you, Chad. Mace will take you around the horn as well. What's your schedule like now? Now that owners meetings are done, we're well past the combine, pro days are wrapped. Like, what's your schedule between now and the draft, where we know it's going to be just wild and crazy?
Yeah, it's the 5 round comes out on Friday, then the 7 round comes out the week before the draft. So that's a lot of time invested. I'll have a couple of other articles on NFL.com talking about the ideal picks for each team and other things. So you can watch for those. And I'm here in California for the next 5 weeks, enjoying it very much at the studios here at NFL Media, and helping out with the Paths of the Draft show that you can see every day on NFL Network. So I got some stuff to do.
You're missing a couple of snowstorms in Wisconsin this week. You picked a heck of a time to go to California, because everything I'm hearing from Wisconsin is this weather is miserable right now. So you were there at the right time. One quick thing before we go. In the 4-round mock, Braylon Trice, you have mocked to the Broncos at 76, edge rush from Washington. What do you like about that potential pairing?
Well, I just think he's going to be a value, and he's going to be one of these guys that ends up in the 3rd round because he's just not a super athlete. But, it's funny, like they got Baron Browning in the 3rd round, even though he was a super athlete, but nobody really saw him as a great edge. And it's almost the opposite here, that Trice really does a good job on the edge. He's a strong player, can hold his ground against the run, and he can also get after the quarterback. He's just not the most athlete in the class. And these guys fall into the 3rd, 4th round sometimes, and they end up being real producers at the next level. So teams are going to find some value. There's not a ton of great edge rushers this year, and so teams, you can go one way or the other. Either guys get pulled up because of the lack of supply, but sometimes they just kind of fall by the wayside, and teams don't forget about them, but they just don't put as high a price on them because they know the class overall isn't as great. So there's going to be some deals in the 3rd and 4th round. Trice, again, a solid overall player that you really can't complain. Any team, especially a lot of he's success. He can work in any kind of scheme. Really, he's got versatility to stand up. He stood up a lot in Washington, but he can play with his hand down too if a team wants to do that in different alignments. So I think he's going to be a solid player for whoever takes him.
Chad Reuter, NFL.com, NFL Network, and I'm sure you're going to be ready for your mentions, because when you got McCarthy to the Broncos fans are going to be very happy with that, Chad.
Well, I hope so. I'm not rooting. I mean, I don't root for anybody. I root for all these guys, right? But McCarthy getting this knock as, he didn't pass that much. Well, that's not his job, right? Like, he doesn't call the play. I mean, he doesn't run the offense. Harbaugh runs the offense, and that offense was run first. And so I can't blame him for not throwing 500 times a year. It's not the way the offense was. So I'm really excited to see what kind of player he can become. And if that's in Denver, then Broncos fans may have something to celebrate.
Yeah, we're celebrating here on our YouTube channel. They can help us out on YouTube. How do they do that, Mace?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss a vid.
Look at Chad. He's like, you bunch of nerds. All right.
He's the middle of the nerd sandwich right now.
No comment.
He's Chad Reuter. He's Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammey saying OBT is a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.